Okay.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Neither do I.
Sorry about that. At 5:50, we'll go ahead and call the Board of Civil Authority meeting to order. It is Wednesday, June 24th, 5:50. We have a quorum present. Our first order of business is to nominate and elect a chair for this Board of Civil Authority. I will entertain motions to nominate a chair.
Nominate Chris Wallace as chair.
We have a nomination. Is there a second?
A second nomination or a second?
A second to the nomination.
There's a second, I'll second that.
Yes. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of nominating Chris Wallace, Chair of Board of Civil Authority, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Next order of business is to nominate and elect a vice chair for the BCA. I will entertain nominations.
I nominate Wendy Martin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll do it in the next chat.
Sorry.
I'll second.
Of
Yeah, everybody's second that.
Thanks, everybody.
course.
Okay. So we have a nomination second for Wendy Martin as vice chair. Do we have any discussion? There being none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of electing Wendy Martin, vice chair of the Board of Civil Authority, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Our next order of business is to discuss the process of possible tax appeals and the potential timeline. Kim, do you want to lead on that?
Just this afternoon, I saw on my desk that the listers have mailed out their grievance notifications. And I see there's 33, am I right, Artie? And so I didn't get to check the timeline on the calendar, but they have 14 days from the time of the mailing
To submit their appeal to the town.
to submit their appeal in writing to the town, to me. Okay, and then, once they do that, then I have a certain length of time to notify them of their hearing. I have no idea how many there will be.
Right?
Out of the 33.
Well, worst case, 33.
Worst case 33, and because no one else can come forward for a hearing unless they've gone through the grievance process, and then they have not.
That's it. Yeah.
And then I will turn it over to Ryan from New England Municipal Consultants, who actually performed reappraisal and why we're in where we are.
Alright, thanks. Yeah, no, thanks for having me. So I'd like to kind of do this before we get into the BCA, grievances. So my name is Ryan. I was the project manager for the reappraisal. Mostly just, procedure, like, I think you guys are all gonna be totally fine with that. You got good leadership here, and we've gone through that before. I think this is a pretty experienced board. So I really just wanted to give you a brush up on the data cards. So I just pulled a couple of samples. The first one I'm gonna go over is 258 Chester Road. So that'll be in the top left-hand corner of the front. The building data in the photos would be considered on the back. And I just want to draw your attention to some things, some stuff required a lot of data on here. Yeah, so there's one that's just one piece of paper, and the other one is a staple, so I'm just on a single piece of paper right now. So, one thing here, activities, so our activities are basically gonna say, bottom right hand corner, so it's 4/18/26. There's an 18 code, that's signifying that they came to preliminary grievance. So you can see if you go up in the middle, you have previous assessments. So I can kind of point you along here. So you can see that first line is a PL line, so 2026 preliminary value. Follow that all the way over, the first value rendered was 847,900. top right-hand corner is current value 744,900. So that reflects the change from their initial preliminary value notice. And then the post value after that preliminary value notice, and then they did not go to formal grievances. So it's just, there will be some history. That history we will obviously like dictate to you as we, we enter, discovery.
Mhm.
But just, there's a lot of this card that kind of does tell the history. Down at the bottom is gonna be the land section. And so something just to be cognizant of, if you see right in the middle column, pretty much it's NBC in that bottom section. And it says VO. That's your neighborhood, so that sets the first acre value. So that stands for village outer. There's a VI for village inner, so think of village inner as right where we are right now. And then village outer is just one ring outside where you get a little bit further away from being able to walk, right to the village. So that's gonna dictate acre value one, excess acreage value the same throughout town. So just a couple of things, I'm gonna flip it over to the back. And, the best thing, what we say all the time is that our values are data derived, right? All of our values are data derived. So best case would be, we wanna adjust data to affect a value change if you feel that that's appropriate. So it's totally okay, and you can absolutely have this be your decision where you just say minus 35,700. I have the ability to do that. But that's an arbitrary number, right? That's just like coming out of the ether for whatever you guys are thinking. So like if I pull your attention to, it's the second column, depreciation. And so depreciation is just gonna say from when the house, so it's like, yeah, it says good, very good. 20.2% under depreciation. So that's basically saying from when the house was originally built in 1952 to today, its current condition, it's in really good shape. It's been maintained like very well, mostly all, like nothing from 1952 is left except the sticks, right? Now, say you walk through this house on a BCA and you think, and the inside is like tired, right? So think of like a theme when you're walking through a house. Is it tired? Is it dated, mixed up dates? That may justify a good, very good going to a good or an average good, therefore reducing the value. So as opposed, we're not gonna make you like professional data collectors in 20 minutes here, obviously, right? But just that there are some keys, so depreciation and overall building grade are gonna be the two biggest adjusters of value that I think you guys can just hone in on a little bit. So like this is considered a C++ home, so 2 ticks above average construction style and materials. So if you go through that house, and you're like, everything in here is basic as can be, and it just having that background, knowing like, okay, so I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna take my notes and I'm gonna basically submit a theme to the whole house. Like, very nice, magnificent, like high-end fixtures versus, hey, this is dated, they got pink carpet in the bathroom. You know what I mean? Like the stuff's going back to the 70s. It would behoove us all to adjust data as opposed to doing like lump sum adjustments. I understand like there's gonna be certain circumstances where that may not be like a reasonable thing to do. But I just want to draw your attention to that. And then the second, so the other one the other sample here, I just gave this sample because it's 2 cards. So signifying that there were 2 buildings on the property. And, in this activity, they did not appeal in any way. This was actually one of the good sales, one of the hinge, what do we kind of call like a cornerstone sale. So if you see in the sales information in the middle, 12/12/25, it sold for 405,000. It was listed at 405,000. It was on the market for I think like 115 days, like all like the perfect market point that we look for. So we're using this card to kind of set our model. down in the land, you can see the neighborhood is a rural RA for rural average. Which is gonna set that first acre at 60,000 as opposed to 140,000. On the village designation on the prior farm. And then there are influences to that land, so if you look at line one, starting at 60,000. We're gonna, and then we have a size adjustment, we have a access -10. So just saying like the access is really rough, there are driveways, stuff like that. So again, just things as the BCA that you should be looking at to like make your decision, right? You're looking at the characteristics of the property. So these are the characteristics that we use to set value, so basic, just land, building attributes. So I'm gonna kind of stop there, and like, if you have any questions, wanna jump in. At all, or,
How much time do you typically spend inside of a building?
so, I mean, it all depends on what the building is, you know, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 30 minutes. You guys are just gonna take your time, right, and walk through at your pace, and really make sure that you inspect every structure. Right, so that's the whole thing, so, you know, BCA, on the inspection, you know, you're not just walking through the main house, you have to walk through the cabin, the barns. All that stuff, because that's where we find out that the barn has an apartment in it. So as a result of BCA changes, it's not an automatic negative. We can, at the BCA level, the values can increase. They just change as they are needed to change. So yeah, it's as long as you need, sorry, yeah.
So are you referring like, so we should focus not so much on data as we should. What we see for like you said, the pink carpet, things like that.
Well, no, so like, yeah, the whole point of the year is that to care about data.
Yeah.
So like actually going through, obviously walking through with this card. And again, like, this is, you know, a shotgun like type thing, you're not gonna know the intricacies, right, of this. But like, on the back of like card one, it just says good, very good, it's in really good condition. And you walk through and you don't feel that that's true. Well, that's something that we can adjust that will then affect value, and it would affect value the same as we've affected value for every other property in town. As opposed to just arbitrary adjustments where BCA decisions are like -55,000. That number is literally like you guys, you know, you pulled that out of the air, right? So, and again, and at the end of the day, I'll also say this. You can make whatever decisions you want, and we have to facilitate them. I'm just trying to maintain equity through this process, as we've maintained it through the rest of our processes, like going through the reappraisal.
So am I hearing you correctly that we are going through these homes?
Yeah,
Oh, we have never done that before.
we make it, we make a group, it's not the whole board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably a team of three, I think
That's
is how
right.
we've done it in the
Okay.
past.
Public inspection.
that's right.
Okay.
Inspection team.
Okay, because I was like, oh, wow, I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
So these are just models, these are not necessarily coming
Yeah.
up.
These are just sample
Okay.
rounds that
But
you could be going.
As you said, you know, they may be appealing, maybe they had a newly constructed garage or something that wasn't finished, but the entire property gets inspected. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, so.
Every structure.
And that is the big thing, you know, I'm not saying like you gotta walk through like their, you know, the he shed or she shed, right? But it's like, you know, if they got a, you know, 3,000 square foot barn with a loft, you know, at least we wanna be moving our heads in there. You know, type of things.
So when you did the original appraisals that came up with these documents, did you walk through all these already? You've walked through every property in town.
So we, obviously the interiors are, we have to be invited.
Oh,
So, if you go, so I'm on Big Story now, the
Okay.
two-parter, and if you look at the activity.
uh-huh.
The last time, so that's gonna be like kind of bottom right of the front of the
Yep,
car.
yep.
Under activities.
Got it.
So the last time I was there was August 26th of 2025, and a 2 code means I just measured and took photos from the outside.
Okay.
A 3 or a 14 would mean that there was an interior inspection. This is stuff that we're gonna put in like the executive summary of the listers write-up. Will be this history, but I want you to just be aware that it exists, like we
Yeah.
document everything that we do on the property. So it's like going back to just cite or source, right? So let's say Big Story was a BCA appeal And we said, we've never been in these homes, we've never seen the inside, this value is completely rendered from exterior observation only. Well, then your first cue is gonna be like, well, there's probably interior data that's wrong or inconsistent. You know, so and again, not like trying to, you know, like, make you a data collector, like we're an appraiser, but just being cognizant that, if we're saying that there are, 3.5 bathrooms and there's only 2, well, we wanna change that, right? As opposed to just like a lump sum adjustment.
And we have lots of these this year. 33.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, so basically you're working as like a quasi judicial board where, the listers and myself will be representing the municipality's position. The appellant will be representing their position and their argument. You'll hear discovery from both the town and the appellant. And then you create your inspection committee, schedule the inspection and walk through. So you're more of like an arbiter of a decision, and yeah, sure, checking up on like the data, especially again on properties that we've never been on the inside of. There may be assumed data that's incorrect.
But it's important to know that we begin with a presumption of validity of the
Yes.
assessors, the town's assessment. And it is incumbent upon the appellant to demonstrate otherwise.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So this is not we're not trying to meet in the middle, for example, with the appellant to find, you give a little, we give a little, no. It's entirely incumbent upon them to demonstrate, can be an error of classification, omission, of size or, but they have to demonstrate something to support their request for, an appeal.
Yeah, for evaluation adjustment, they may
Right.
also bring in, sales comparisons.
Right.
And say, here's property that's sold in Athens, right down the street, I'm on Athens Road. Right in Grafton, and here's, quarter mile down in Athens, this sold. That wouldn't be in our study because it's not in Grafton,
Right.
but it's not necessarily invalid, right? It's just over a town line.
Right.
So that's other evidence to, expect the appellant to bring, but then it could be anything, the appellant could like, and that's up to
Yeah.
the chair to keep it in mind, but yeah, you never know what you're gonna get, but
Right.
that is the presumption of correctness is on the town, and the appellant does have the burden of proof to have, basically justify a reason to change.
And the appellant has an obligation to propose a different value.
They likely would, I would think yeah.
Is that something that you would impose, that would be a requirement if we're gonna bother with you, you gotta give us some.
Not necessarily. We come to our own decision, based on the evidence presented to us.
So a good example is, and this actually happens quite often, is you get to a BCA and the entire argument from the appellant is all about taxes. And the tax rate in Act 60, and I don't feel this is, but that whole chestnut. I mean, you can listen to them for as long as you like, but they're not speaking about their assessment, we're here to talk about their value, not taxes.
Correct.
So like that could very well be like what you hear and take it with it like, well, okay, is there anything you wanna tell us about your property? And okay, if not, we'll be walking through.
And it goes back to the presumption of credibility goes to the assessment that the town did. And it is entirely incumbent on the appellant to demonstrate otherwise, that there has been something to invalidate that assessment.
Yeah,
So the 33 number that we heard, the connection to that, to the end game, like how many of those will ultimately, we don't know.
We don't know how
does
many
that?
will go forward to appeal.
sure, I can kind of tell you like what we typically see, it's kind of the rule of 10. Well,
Okay.
it was the rule of 10, it's now really the rule of 15, 20. But So we'll have typically 10-15% for preliminary, and then we'll have 10% of that for formal, and then 10% of that for BCA. So if you have 33 of your formals, you should be expecting 3 to 5.
I see.
You know, type of thing, because the majority of these are gonna be all, you know, reconciled and adjusted like at these prior two levels of appeal. So, but we'll definitely illustrate to you, like, this appellant came in at the preliminaries and got this adjustment, then they went to formals and got this adjustment, and now they're here as well. And that, you know, may speak a little bit to you as to like what the real like motivation is. Right, we might just be here to hit the pinata one time, we might not necessarily have like a valid argument, but I've gotten 2 adjustments so far, let's go for a third.
Well, we had one case, I don't remember what it was, when we asked, what did you have in mind? And they said nothing, we don't think we should pay anything, because their property had been damaged by flood, and it wasn't that damaged, but I mean, they'd gone, and you know, obviously we didn't reduce it to nothings,
Yeah.
because that would be kind of weird.
Yeah.
But,
And all properties that go to grievance, have to have a site visit,
right,
and if they refuse the site.
right,
Right,
That
it
ends
invalidates
that
the
ends
appeal.
their
Yeah.
hearing, yes,
Anyway.
they no longer can appeal.
So yeah, and I think we did have a case once where the appellant did not admit the inspection team. And it was automatically nullified, the appeal.
The only other thing that I just see all the time that's kind of organically happens, that's hard to avoid, is when the inspection committee is walking through the home and the property. There can be no more discovery given, right? No more testimony given
Right.
on the site visit.
There's not supposed to be any conversation.
no chit chat.
Yeah,
Exactly.
which is, it's tough though.
It
right?
is.
Walking through the home. So there's, just quick, so in Ludlow, Tom Withington, he's a retired circuit judge from Washington DC. We go at it, it's just for sport. He's like a sports fisherman for the legal process. And, I have him stand outside of the house as the BCA like walks through, and I just go, you know what I'm doing this, Tom, I don't you juice it on my BCA while, you know, you're walking through and stuff. So that is like, not like a request, but it is just something that to be cognizant of and just kind of ask, you know, just politely ask, hey, we really can't like talk to you, we're here just to observe. And you know, and it's just, that's typically like best case.
Right.
But otherwise, that's all I really have. I don't expect like anything unbearable for you folks to be dealing with. But no, that would be a deal.
Unbearable. Oh, that was a great.
Well, yeah, it's never fun, you're talking to your, you know, it's an appeal, right? There,
Right.
people are in disagreement, so, but I don't think it's gonna be like a grueling task, I think you'll be able to get through it pretty readily this summer.
And so we should have some resolution as to what we're dealing with in terms of the number of appeals going forward from grievance in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the calendar impression of my brain holds true, I believe it's gonna be July 8th. Your deadline will be 14 days from
Yeah.
today. And then you have 14 days to like schedule, and then you know, basically you want to probably just be doing these in like August. Get tax bills out, you know, get all that stuff out, and then handle this after all that craziness is done. Cause they're all gonna need to get revised tax bills, either way, well, if there's a change in there, but either way, they need to get
If
revised.
there's a
bills.
change.
Yeah.
And we would try to do, let's pretend there are 3, let's be best case scenario, would we try to do them all in the same meeting?
Whatever the board decides.
We do usually, I think.
We have in the past,
Yeah.
and that's where, and I think we have set a time limit.
Yeah, we have to, because attorneys sometimes come,
If they
That's-
hire an
yeah,
attorney, it
longer.
can get lengthy.
no, to the hearing.
Oh,
So you gotta call, you gotta shut it down.
And that's actually, that's another interesting angle, is so like, it's not, you know, they bring in an attorney, it's not law and order, like, I'm
No.
not, or the listeners are not on the witness stand, however, that's sometimes how attorneys
Yes,
treat us.
yes.
So when we give our testimony, and now the appellant's giving their testimony, but they're directing questions at us, we'll be continuously just looking at the chair and saying, you tell me if you want me to respond, that's up to the chair to decide. You know, you need to talk to them, I'm not here to like talk to you. So, but that's just kind of a point of order that definitely could save some time, because that's like their whole shtick coming in, is basically, I'm not even gonna really talk about the value. My tactic is to discredit the process for the listers or the assessor, right? And, you know, I don't wanna talk about value, I wanna talk about them and their process. But, you know, that's rare. Well, it is what it is.
Just to reiterate, just to picture this, as inspectors, we'll go into any house. And basically, superficially, visually. Judge structure, compare and contrast it against the card.
Yep.
I mean, we're really not, we have to put blinders on with furnishings and pink carpets and paint jobs and everything else, right? We have to be pretty much.
Great point, yes, so all personal property needs to be omitted, like from your judgment. So think about it, if it's not attached, if it's not real estate and fixed to the property.
Right.
It's not something that you're taking notice of or grading as far as value, which sometimes can be difficult. There's a lot of times you'll have like a really old traditional, like Grafton's a perfect example, really old traditional federal colonial, right? Plaster walls, cracks, you know, not, you know, it's really old, traditional on the inside, but it's furnished and appointed like beautifully. You have to look past that, because if it sells, all that stuff needs to be either discounted from the sale or wouldn't be there, you know, as part of the sale. So, you know, sometimes that is, but, you know, yeah, just look past personal property and just try to stay with.
Pictures, like big
Yes.
bathtub.
Yep.
That counts, not
That's
big
relevant.
mat.
Think about it, yeah, exactly, so anything that would go with the house if it were to sell,
I know,
anything that's affixed. We don't account for appliances because it's not a guaranteed part of the transfer, so, you know, we grade kitchens, but like. You know, we're gonna grade the countertops, cabinets, the space, the design of the space, right, whether it has an island. So like, you know, a kitchen, you know, you want it to be a triangle, or if you. Like, a kitchen's supposed to be functional, so there are kitchens that are built that are just not functional. But like if there's a Viking range, we're not gonna base a value on their Viking, you know, propane range, because they might take that with them when they sell it.
I thought you mentioned the orange carpet earlier as a downer.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm just trying to describe like a 1970s, you know, bathroom with the pink shag carpet and the
Well, if it's a
green,
fix.
like vinyl fitter and. Oh,
If
yeah,
it's, if it's wall to wall, it's fixed.
Well, so think of it this way, so you buy that house, the first thing you're gonna do is rip that bathroom out, right? It's gonna be a consideration, it's gonna be a. Concession, you're gonna say, yeah, okay, you have 2 bathrooms, but. They're gross and I don't like them,
They're
and I'm gonna have to redo them, so I'm not gonna pay you. You should price it accordingly, I'm not gonna pay you, so those are like the judgments you want, so walk through the house, I'll just kind of leave it at this. Walk through the house as if you're buying it. And think of a common theme as you walk through the whole property, right? Just what's kind of a common theme? Is this very nice? Is this middle of the road? Or does this need a lot of work? Is this like a really tiny house?
How about painting? I'm sorry to get into these details, but,
Yeah, part of that common theme, right? So like if the paint's all chipping and
the
all the
color's orange, that's.
oh, well, that's like prep, yeah, no, like not like prep, it's more like damage, right? So it's like damage or like really dated, like cosmetic bleach, you know, cosmetic issues. But if it's like a matter, you know, again, try not to get in the weeds, right, as much, so,
But this will have already been professionally assessed.
yeah. Yeah.
And so we're just looking for any discrepancy in that assessment that the appellant, wanted us to,
And the appellant
Be
will
aware
bring
of.
prompts sometimes to bolster their case, so that's the other thing we would look at, yeah.
and as I think you mentioned earlier, the outcome can be any one of 3. We can sustain the assessment, which I think is most common anyways, because we begin with that presumption of validity. We can lower it if there are, say, errors of classification, comparison, what have you, or If we do our walkthrough and we find a new apartment, you know, above the barn, that was not accounted for, it can raise the assessment, so there is some risk to the appellant. When he appeals, it's not a slam dunk that, nothing to lose, but, you know, you might.
Like go up.
Well, and then they can go to, the next day.
Right, and we're not the final say, they can go to the state, they have two courses of action above us for further appeal.
And as inspectors, we would be able to look, I mean, overkill is there. Look in basements and ceiling.
Yeah, you can never.
Yeah.
Portholes that go to an attic space or closets.
So, yeah, so I'll tell you, like, so the most important places to look are gonna be basement, kitchens, bathrooms. Get a bedroom count, we don't need to look in closets. Don't go in crawl spaces, like, you know, nothing like that, it's just the big ticket items, and again, like. I guess, like, just think about this, as you drive home tonight, like, look at homes, look at a property and just think of a theme. Right, traditional, like quality, like high-end, updated, or dated, tired, you know, not nice. You know, those just try to simplify your observations, cause then when you get back to write your decision, that's where you can kind of all get together and say, well, this is what we saw.
Right.
You know,
Okay, that's good.
awesome,
Thank you.
yeah, no, absolutely, welcome. Yeah, no, we'll, as always, we'll be available.
And I encourage everyone to read through the handbook.
Yeah, especially starting, I was gonna say, starting on page, it's 47 pages now, so, which is daunting, so starting on page 23, that has the BCA's entry into the process.
Perfect.
Right, we would say, yeah, I mean, lead it, the, before that, it's leading the process that leads up to where, when it comes to us, so.
BCA meetings must be getting no later than 14 days after the last date allowed for the notice of appeal, so that's where 14 to hear any appeals that come to me to schedule, and then 14 days to schedule them.
So, I guess, I don't know how we would do this, though, does it make sense to try to schedule it, because we're all here, try to schedule a date now in case there are, but then you have to coordinate that with the appellants.
We do.
Right, we have to coordinate it with them. So we may have to meet again, just to.
To set the dates,
And we are,
date, I'm sorry.
we're also gonna need to have this is separate other business, but ahead of the August primary, we're gonna need a meeting as well.
Yeah, it's on the list.
And so all of our hearings, am I right, I haven't reread this again. Last couple days, we recess and then we visit,
Yes.
make our site visit, and then back up again, right?
Right,
So
and the
not-
inspection team it's usually a 3-man team, 3-person team. And you prepare an inspection report for the record and for the board. So that they can be informed and we can collectively make a decision.
Because you deliberate in executive, you don't deliberate in public. So we look at the report and everything.
Right.
Yeah, we're in a closed meeting, yeah.
Right,
Yeah, we'll open the hearing back up.
And then open up
deliver
to-
it, and then give your report to the rest of us, on whatever house you happen to visit. So now we just wait.
And then
Right.
the thing to keep in mind too, this is going probably further too, is when you have this written report. Kim has to have, whatever the decision is, it has to be laid out in writing. Right,
Yeah.
to them, in certain.
I've got a particular form to fill out
Right.
that's going to ask particular questions as we're deliberating. And then I bring that. And give our decision to the appellant and then to the listers.
so in terms of general timeline, are we looking like first 2 weeks of August?
That's what that Ryan felt is where we have to lean to, because 14 days brings us to July 8th
Right.
to schedule.
Right, and then we have 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then 14 days.
Well, otherwise the end of July. Okay, right.
Yeah,
So on 22nd of July, the walkthroughs would have happened.
no,
I misunderstood, sorry.
No,
July
that,
8th, I was just adding 14 days to,
They have to let Kim know by July eighth.
Yeah,
okay.
What was that again? I'm sorry.
They have to let Kim know by July eighth, whether they're going
And
to.
then-
whether they're gonna go forward
Whether they're gonna
to
go forward or
appeal
not. Yeah.
to the Board of Civil Authority.
and then we've got 14 days from the time they tell us, at the end of that 14 days to actually schedule them.
Right,
But I
Yeah.
think the scheduling can go out.
Yeah, it's subject to availability because sometimes there's second homeowners who aren't always here.
right.
Sometimes they have an attorney or someone, you know, who may have limited availability, so there's not, I don't think, a fixed window for the,
There's not,
Schedule.
because if you look on C on page 24, why the BCA tried to accommodate the reasonable scheduling request of the appellants. It does not have to schedule a hearing,
Right.
but we try to be convenient for them too.
Now, somebody
But-
could, well, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
But just in general terms, just to get a sense of availability, you know, if half the board is gonna be gone the first 2 weeks of August. Okay, that's fine. And life happens and we don't expect anyone to change plans, but just need to know, if you're not gonna be available. Because,
Can I make a couple of comments?
yeah, go ahead.
I just want to remind you too that the state of Vermont requires the property's assessment to be at 100% of fair market value. So that's also something you have to consider. Is it fair market value for the property? The second thing is the property assessed fairly with comparable properties? So if we have a property, one of the things we're going to be doing as listers is trying to present to you similar properties or reasons why the property is fairly assessed according to fair market value. And we might also show you comparable properties in town that are comparable to the property that is grieving or coming before you in the BCA to show you that it's comparably assessed equally with somebody else that has a similar type of property. So that's just to give you a heads up as to how things will be proceeding when we get these people coming before you, which I don't think there will be that many actually. So hopefully.
Do you have any dates, Hardy, that are not good for the listers?
What's that question?
Do you have any dates that are not convenient for the listers?
Any dates that are not good for the listers?
At this time, I don't know, especially out that way. I mean, we're not going anywhere.
Okay. I just want BCA to be aware that August 11th is the primaries.
Yeah,
So if we could try to stay away from that window of Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday. It is quite a.
but like somebody could notify you next Monday, the
Mhm.
29th,
Yeah.
and then it would be 14 days from that. Right,
Well, we wait till the 14 days is totally
we
up.
wait till then,
Yes.
okay, I thought we had to answer them, or
No,
accommodate them 14 days, okay. That's the part of it. Okay. And so,
Okay, so, do we have any other questions about the process, of the tax appeals and potential timeline? So, just, there's no guarantee, but general expectation, expect based on precedent, you know, 3 appeals to happen during the first 2 weeks of August, but we'll know more specifically by the end of, the 2 week period.
right, yeah. Right around the tax bill time.
mhm. Okay.
Other business, we mentioned, the primary in August, that's gonna require another BCA meeting.
Yes, we will have to set date and time like we usually do for the primaries where they're going to be held. I'll schedule that. It's pretty formality, ballot clerks, presiding officers. We just went to, Peter, Michelle and I just attended a training in West Rutland. Very overwhelming, very well attended. A lot was taken in. And again, you guys have the opportunity to watch it on a webinar. It'll be recorded and you can watch it again and again if you really wanted to. There are a few changes when it comes to counting ballots, which is very confusing. They brought up the point when there is no write-in whatsoever. Let's see if I get this right. They're calling it long and short reporting. And so if you've got somebody written in, but that's there on paper, you know, they registered, they're on the ballot, but then you have a write-in on it instead. We do not have to count that write-in. So we take the short red. We don't have to count the write-in. We just are counting the person that is printed on that sheet. If you've got a election that has no name whatsoever, and you have to do a write-in, then we are counting those write-ins and we are writing them down. So counting is gonna be a little bit different this year.
Okay.
Right? It's.
Tell you, you never saw a weed that you didn't like.
So
You're familiar with all the weeds.
that was one of the biggest changes, I would have to say.
So Scott is on one, he ran for one, and he's written in on the other, we do have to count those, right?
Oh,
If there's no,
He is printed on a ballot,
Right.
so if.
even if it's not.
Just the rando write-in, you don't have to, you do not count.
I
Or
always,
don't have to count.
There's a chart, you have to.
there is a colored chart in the handbook that I sent you towards the very end. That gives the yes, no, and if you say yes to this, you go to this. If you say no to that, you move to this.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's just one of the biggest changes that there's gonna be.
Okay.
Other than that, I can't think of a whole lot of changes that we have done in the past. There is one thing that I've never done with the BCA. Is, you know how I always have our ballot clerks and you vote on them and the presiding officers in the date, time and place. One of them is an exit and an entrance checklist. We're supposed to vote on whether we want that or not.
Really?
I've always done it traditionally,
We've never-
we've always done it. I like the balance, the check and balance.
Yeah.
That's accountability,
They
yeah.
don't necessarily.
But apparently, 99%.
I mean,
But apparently the VCA is supposed to be voting on that at their meetings.
Okay,
At their,
so we'll add that to the agenda.
we'll add that to the
we'll
agenda.
think about that.
As opposed to just assuming because it's past practice.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, I just carried on that.
Great.
And speaking of the election, if you could follow up, I don't know if you have anything scheduled for the Republicans. We're planning on the 20th for the Democrats, and I don't know your window for the independents, but JP nominations, the nominating caucuses have to take place within the next month or so.
Yeah, I didn't bring the booklet up for that, but it's all in the booklet. What's your date again?
I was told that our last date was July 20th. So it has to be before then. That day or before then, before the 21st of July, and then to the town clerk by the 27th. But if you could just follow up and verify for the major parties and independents.
Yep.
What the drop dead dates are.
I'll check with Laura.
Okay.
And then I have a timeline that I can actually add the JPs to the back of the general election ballot. So that we don't have to print our separately.
Right, in November.
In November.
Yeah.
Right. And JPs do not take, once they're elected in November, they do not take office until the 1st of February. So you continue on as normal until the 1st of February, then we'll reorganize again and you take yours. And move on from there. Awesome.
Keep it busy.
So yeah, we may be seeing each other a few more times this summer.
Yes, yeah, definitely, there's gonna be a few more, I couldn't see having a BCA meeting for date and time of the primary now.
No,
It's way too soon.
Too soon.
Yeah. So, and they're not all ballots are not being mailed out. We are doing them from the office. The general election November will be mailed out to every registered voter. Active registered voter, the state will mail those out. We are mailing out the primaries. I am open until 5 o'clock on Friday for any overseas. I'm required to be open until 5 tomorrow in case there's an overseas request. And then we do that electronically. Um, and ballots are available now. I do have them in the office. I will be posting the samples and the warnings as soon as I get them, which will be in the next couple of days, they said. So I'll be starting the process of mailing for those who request them. And if you're not familiar, we'll have to have two JPs to deliver to the ill or those who cannot make it. Where
preferably of opposing parties,
right,
if possible.
possible. And I may, if I can't get ballot clerks, call upon the BCA to sit there and check in, or even
Yeah,
if they're
sure.
interested in doing it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, I'm not sure.
Oh,
Sometimes I have a hard time, you know, all kinds.
Okay.
And.
Yeah, and if you could build in breaks for you, so you're not going, for 18 hours,
The thing.
you and Michelle.
Rereading some of the handbooks too, one of the thing is there's always supposed to be 2 presiding officers at all times. Which a
We
lot of
only
times, Wendy's usually a ballot clerk in the afternoon, or, so if I run an errand, it's Michelle and Wendy, that
Yeah.
at least I still have a BCA member along with the presiding officer. Yeah, so that works out really well. Yeah, think of anything else that was at the meeting to update BCA on? Primary, usually it's not a huge turnout.
Right.
Just say it happened to you, or is that?
It's gonna be here, yeah,
It's usually here.
yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing we do is, in town at the school is the annual. That's all I have to say.
Okay. We have any other business before the Board of Civil Authority?
It's expected that we take the election division training, right, on July 13th. I mean, that's not a.
Yeah.
You really,
Mandatory.
you really should.
I-
It'd be very helpful.
I'd like to think, yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought.
And actually, I've already, if I got the time, I'm gonna consider doing it again myself because. It was just a lot, yeah.
Pretty dense.
It was, yeah.
Any other business? There being none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Kathy,
I'll second it.
second by Wendy. Discussion? None. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. 6:38.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You gonna get him, Ken?